In 1740, in London. In 1740, in London, people did not wake up thinking about the future. They woke up listening. Because if the bells rang differently that morning, it meant someone was going to die. Maybe today. Maybe someone you knew. Maybe you. There were no loud announcements, no warnings. Death was simply expected. Would it be a thief, a servant, a woman who stole cloth, a boy who took bread? No one asked if the punishment fit the crime. That question itself was dangerous. The city was alive but tense. Streets were narrow. Buildings leaned inward, as if the city itself was watching you. You walked carefully. You spoke quietly. You remembered who was listening. Because in London, fear did not come suddenly. It lived with you. Every week, people gathered near Tyburn, not to protest, not to mourn, but to watch. Children sat on shoulders, vendors sold pies and ale, couples laughed, and at the center of it all stood the gallows, 3 wooden beams, ropes swaying in the wind, silent, waiting. Did you know that in 1740, over 200 crimes were punishable by death? Stealing a handkerchief, cutting down a tree, being poor in the wrong way. You didn't need to be violent, you just needed to be unlucky. Courts moved fast, trials lasted minutes. Evidence was thin, confessions were encouraged. Once sentenced, there was no hiding. Executions were public because fear works better when shared. As the condemned was brought forward, the crowd leaned in. Some prayed, some mocked, some cheered. Imagine standing there, the rope inches from your face, the crowd breathing together. Would you scream? Would you beg? Would anyone care? The worst moment wasn't the drop. It was the silence before it. That pause when the crowd realized it could have been them. And then it was over. The body hung. The lesson was delivered. Order restored. For now. People went back to work, back to selling, back to surviving. But something stayed behind. A thought. If it happened to him, why not me? That thought shaped behavior. It shaped obedience. It shaped the city. London didn't need constant violence. The memory was enough. This was not chaos. This was control. And it worked until it didn't. Because a society built on fear does not collapse loudly. It rots quietly. And long after Tyburn was dismantled, the logic remained. Public punishment, public fear, public obedience. Only the methods changed. If you lived in 1740 London, you wouldn't ask how to escape. You would ask how to remain invisible. And most never succeeded. But fear does not disappear when the body is cut down. It lingers. It follows you home. In 1740 London, people learned to read faces. A glance too long. A word spoken too freely. A neighbor suddenly silent. Silence was safer than truth. Children were taught early, not through lessons, but through memory. They remembered the man who screamed. They remembered the woman who fainted. They remembered the rope tightening, and they remembered that no one stopped it, because stopping it meant standing out, and standing out meant risk. At night, taverns filled with quiet conversations, voices lowered, eyes watched doors. People spoke in fragments, half sentences, suggestions instead of statements. Everyone understood the rules. The law was not about justice, it was about demonstration. Every execution was a message. This is what happens when you cross the line. But the line was never clearly drawn. It moved. Sometimes it moved because food was scarce. Sometimes because merchants complained. Sometimes because the city needed reminding. You could follow the rules and still fall. A servant accused by a master. A poor man mistaken for someone else, a woman with no one to defend her. Once accused, reputation mattered more than truth, and reputation belonged to those with power. The crowd believed the law because believing was easier than questioning. Questioning required courage, and courage was expensive. Executions became routine, predictable, almost boring. And that was the most dangerous part. When death becomes ordinary, anything becomes possible. By mid-century, London would begin to change. Ideas would shift. Punishments would soften. But in 1740, none of that had arrived yet. The system still worked, not because it was right, but because it was feared, and fear is efficient. If you stood in that crowd long enough, you would feel it too. Not shock, not horror, but acceptance. And that is how control survives, not through violence alone, but through participation. Everyone watching, everyone complicit, no one innocent. This was London before reform, before privacy, before mercy mattered. A city that functioned, at a cost. And once you understand this world, you understand something deeper. Modern systems are quieter, cleaner, less visible. But the logic is familiar. Public fear, social pressure, silent obedience. Only the stage has changed. The question is not whether we are different now. The question is, would you have looked away? By the time the rope was removed, the lesson had already been learned. Not by the dead, by the living. In 1740, London, fear was not an emotion. It was an environment. It shaped how people walked, how they dressed, how they chose their words. People learned to disappear without leaving. A man could live his entire life within 5 streets, never travel, never question, never attract attention. Survival did not require courage. It required invisibility. Those who were noticed rarely stayed long. The city did not need spies. Neighbors watched each other. A raised voice, a sudden argument, a rumor whispered at the market. Everything was remembered. Everything was stored. And when the time came, the city released what it had collected. Arrests often happened at dawn, not because it was efficient, but because it was humiliating. Doors were broken open, families watched, children learned. You did not need proof. You only needed an accusation. Once taken, you entered a different world. Cells were dark, cold, wet. Time slowed. Prisoners counted breaths instead of hours. Some confessed to crimes they never committed. Others confessed to crimes that didn't exist. Confession did not mean guilt. It meant exhaustion. Trials followed. Short, public, final. Judges wore authority like armor. Their words carried weight, not because they were right, but because no one challenged them. The crowd accepted the verdict before it was spoken. They always did, because doubt was dangerous. On execution days, the city moved differently. Traffic slowed, work paused, attention shifted. People adjusted their schedules to arrive on time. Missing an execution was like missing a market day. Unusual, suspicious. The condemned were paraded through the streets. Not hidden, seen, faces exposed, names announced. This was not punishment. This was theater, a reminder that power was alive. The cart stopped. The crowd pressed closer. Some prayed, some cursed, some smiled, and some felt relief. Relief that it was not them. That relief was the real currency of the city. As long as someone else was on the rope, you were safe. For now. Afterwards, people spoke about the weather, the price of bread. Nothing unusual. Death blended into routine. That is how it stayed effective. Fear works best when it becomes normal. Years passed like this. Generations grew up knowing the rules without ever hearing them explained. You don't steal. You don't speak. You don't question. You don't stand out. And if you do, the city will remember you. Eventually, reforms came. Executions moved behind walls. The gallows disappeared. But something remained. The instinct, the habit of silence, the understanding that power does not always need to shout. Sometimes it just needs to be seen once. In 1740, London mastered that lesson. And once a society learns how to govern through fear, it never truly forgets. The buildings may change, the laws may soften, the language may improve, but the structure survives. Because fear is efficient, and efficiency is seductive. If you lived in that city, you wouldn't have asked how to change it. You would have asked how to survive it. And most people did, quietly.